Welcome to another episode of Culture Shock. My name is Shawn Galloway, the president of ProAct Safety. A few years ago, I was working with an organization helping them to improve what's called their safety leadership onboarding norms. When people in a leadership level are brought into the organization, they're onboarded with a bunch of different practices and a bunch of training and cultural norming as well to help them be the most effective leader that they can be. But we started asking the question, how do we identify if somebody has the right mindset, the right attitude in safety once they're actually on board? And it actually started progressing to the question of, why can't we figure out what that attitude is before the person actually joins the organization? Now, there's several approaches to this. One is called identifying somebody's locus of control, and it can be quite an expensive profiling questionnaire that helps you identify whether somebody's more external or internal. External is somebody who believes that it's in the will of the gods, or it's a roll of the dice. You know, if it will be, that it will be. Somebody that doesn't believe that they're the master of their own destiny. Now, somebody that's more internal believes that they control their own fate. Now, some of those questionnaires are a little bit difficult to administer, and they can be quite costly. But what about if you have two candidates that are left, both equally competent in the technical abilities and leadership abilities? Wouldn't you like to know what their attitude is like in safety? Well, there's 4 different questions that we've put in place now at hundreds of locations to help identify the safety mindset of the individual. Because as you're working to develop this culture of safety excellence, what I call safety culture excellence, as you're working to develop that, you also have to start protecting it from outside forces. Bringing somebody in that's an influential individual that doesn't share the right mindset and safety can take the culture in the wrong direction. So there's been some questions that we've used both in assessing the culture and actually in hiring. And these questions are quite practical. There's kind of a theory in change that if it's not implementable, it's not going to be implemented by the folks that are doing the work. So I hope that you'll find that these following questions are very practical and they can be asked at different levels. Now, before you start to do it, check with your own company's HR policies to make sure that you have the ability to ask certain questions like this. Number 1, how would you define safety? Do people define safety as the absence of accidents, or do they have more of a proactive definition, like not being at risk or responding and identifying to the risks that we see out there? Question number 2, what role does safety play in an organization? Do they believe it to be an integral part of the company, or safety another thing that we have to do, or worse, a perceived cost center in the organization? Question number 3, what does it take to reach and sustain 0 accidents, 0 injuries, 0 events? If people don't believe in the journey, it's going to be really hard to get there, especially if these individuals are in a leadership role. I can promise you, after working with thousands of sites, that if the leadership doesn't believe that 0 incidents is possible, it's going to be very difficult to get there. And the last question is, what do you think the safety roles, responsibilities, and expectations are for somebody in this position? Now, this can be asked at somebody that's at the worker level, supervisor, manager, executive. What do they think the roles, responsibilities, and expectations are? Can they behaviorally define what it takes, the tasks that are important to get to the desired goal of 0 injuries, 0 hurt, or 100% safe? Asking questions like this starts to give you insight into the individual's perspective on safety. Identifying that before they're actually brought into the organization starts to send the message that safety doesn't start on day 1, safety starts before you're even hired. If you have any comments that you'd like to share, there are several options. You can post a comment on Canadian Occupational Safety's website. You can email me at info@proactsafety.com. Or visit my podcast and blog at www.safetycultureexcellence.com and share your ideas there. Thank you for all that you do. See you next time.